everyone. If you can believe it, it is finals time. And so this is the final for this course. It is just 4 questions, and I want you to answer each question with at least 75 words per question. I'm just going to briefly go over them and kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking for. But at the end of the day, I just want you to be very thoughtful and thorough in your responses. So, number 1, this course focused on patient stories and understanding their perspective as they went through a difficult time. We read a variety of texts over the course of the semester, and we watched one movie, so you could bring in Henrietta Lacks if you wanted to. And so I just want you to tell me, what story or character did you relate to the most and why? It's kind of a funny story because you can kind of relate to how Craig is just dealing with the pressures of academics and life and the spiraling. You know, Craig's probably one of the characters I relate to the most, but I can also kind of relate to Amanda. Have you ever had to be a caregiver for a parent like Amanda had to do, or a loved one, or, be faced with a difficult decision and having to really, there was no good choice in some of the things that she had to deal with. So just think about the story, the characters, and which one just kind of spoke to you the most, And, you can maybe even go into a little bit, it's like how the author created these characters or these stories that just made them so relatable. That's one of the hallmarks of a good author, is if they can get you to really be sucked into the story and really relate to these characters that they have created. What was your favorite and least favorite text, and what about it made it your favorite and least favorite? And be specific. Like, did you not like Mercies in Disguise because it was, very scientific-y? Did you really enjoy Expecting Adam because, the story was relatable and Martha Beck put in a lot of humor in it to help kind of her audience relate to the text and it not be so serious all the time? So, just give some very specific details as to why it was your favorite and least favorite. And I do appreciate you answering this question because, I actually do take this into account when I'm planning for subsequent classes, because if the majority of the class hated one book, it might make me think about reusing it the next go around. So one thing our texts have shown us over the semester is how everyone has a story and struggles. What have you learned through studying these cast of characters that will help you serve your future patients? And this is specifically if you're going into the medical field. But also, if you're not going into the medical field, really any job. Be sure to use specific examples from the course text, projects, and discussions. And this could be something along the lines of, how recognizing that, maybe if somebody turns in, like if you go into education and somebody turns in something late, maybe they've got something going on in their lives. Like poor Martha, she gave birth and was late turning in some of her coursework, and it bothered her, which I thought was really interesting. Or, how her husband, John, had Professor Goatstroke, and he was like, you need to be more serious about your work, without realizing, people do have struggles in their lives that we need to take into account. And so, or, go back to the interview project where you learned a little bit more about what it was like to have a child with a disability and how that might impact how you live your life. So this one might be a little bit difficult to answer. You might have to kind of just sit down and really, really think about it. But just consider, what can you take from what you've learned about studying these people and apply it to your life as a whole. Maybe it might make you think about being more sympathetic, or, whatever it might be. But just really sit and think about this one before you answer it. And it was a strange semester. We're still half COVID, half not COVID. It's been crazy. So what challenges did you face as we worked through these texts? Was it really hard for you to stay focused, keep up with the reading? Do you feel like this semester prepared you for subsequent semesters? Because the pandemic has changed the way we do education. So how has that impacted you? As you've gone through this semester, not just in my class, but in all other classes. And this is probably the most important thing. Do you feel as you've grown as a reader? And what I mean by that, are you taking the time to be willing to read texts that maybe you wouldn't read before? Did it spark an interest in maybe new genres for you? Maybe you really start liking these kind of medical genre type books. And it's okay to tell me that you haven't grown at all. I'm going to be perfectly fine with that. If you just took this class because it was a general ed class, you had to have it, and it's just one check mark off your list, I can understand that. I had some courses like that in my general education as well. But my hope is that you at least were able to appreciate different texts, even if you didn't necessarily like them, as long as you could appreciate them and see how they were applicable to life, because that's why we study literature. It allows us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes so that way we can kind of experience what they've experienced, because we haven't been there. It helps us broaden our understanding of humanity. And so that's my hope for you for this course. But as I said, if you felt like that just didn't happen for you, and maybe it was because of all the stress with all the pandemic and trying to keep with all the schoolwork, as we've kind of gotten back to this new abnormal that we're living in, that's fine too. I just want you to be reflective and be very honest when you answer all these questions. This will be due Monday, December 6th. So you have a week to do it. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I will probably not be in my office this week. As I said, I have to have a very minor operation this week. And so that's kind of knocked me out. And I do apologize for that. I couldn't change it, or I would have. But if you do need me, please feel free to call me. I'm going to put my phone number in the announcement, or shoot me an email. I will be available for you if you do need help. Just let me know, and I hope that each of you has a wonderful winter break.